Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Tourism, Official Languages and La Francophonie.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for his efforts to raise awareness of the Government of Canada's commitment to providing the services our veterans need to transition from active duty to a civilian life successfully. The time that I spent serving with the Standing Committee for Veterans Affairs was some of the most meaningful work that I have done since coming to Parliament. I acknowledge that there's still much work to be done to make sure that we reach the most vulnerable amongst our veterans, but I must say that it has been amazing to watch our government respond to the testimony that I heard directly from veterans, to witness the value of consulting, listening, and taking action. While I appreciate that the motion brought forward today by my honourable colleague, while I do appreciate the motion that's been brought forward, I think it's important to note that the Government of Canada already ensures that money for veterans programming is always available for veterans. The reality is that what is technically termed as lapsed funds are funds that are returned to the Consolidated Revenue Fund, the fund that is used to fund veterans programming year over year. This is truly an accounting term and does not reflect or impact the level of service or the benefits available to our veterans, which is where our government is focused, providing these services and supports that our veterans need. In my opinion, this is where we actually need to remain focused, making sure that veterans have the services they need to access the services in a timely manner. That is what I heard in committee, and it's what I hear in my constituency office. The good news is that even more veterans and their families are reaching out to access service and benefits. In fact, the number of veterans coming forward increased by 31% since we formed government. Veterans and their families are taking advantage of programs such as disability benefits, education and training programs, as well as financial benefits. Last year alone, that amounted to $4.4 billion spent directly on veterans and their families, $1 billion more than at the peak of the funding by Conservative governments. Madam Speaker, I want to assure this House and all Canadians that whether 10 veterans or 10,000 veterans come forward, they will receive the benefits they need. The money will be available. I also want to acknowledge that there's still more to do when it comes to reducing wait times, and that should be our focus. And it is. Our government is investing $42 million to tackle exactly that. We're preparing to deliver service as the new programs announced over the last 3 years roll out and more veterans step forward to receive them. This investment is targeted at eliminating the backlog of applications over 16 weeks. Madam Speaker, despite the misinformation that I often hear through social media and coffee shops around the country, since 2016, our government has invested $10 billion in new resources to improve benefits for veterans and their families. We've introduced and supported new programs to help the men and women of the Canadian Armed Forces return to the life that they want to live after their military career is over. If we invested nothing in veterans like the previous government, I could understand the additional concerns around funds appearing to leave veterans programming, but that is just not the case. While the debate continues about the accounting term referred to as lapse funding and the many different services and benefits of Veterans Affairs Canada, I'd like to take the conversation back to those that are at the heart of this discussion, our men and women in uniform, those who put their own life and liberty on the line for us every single day. I'd like to take a moment to recognize them, especially today, the first day of Veterans Week. Madam Speaker, I'm sure all members of this House would agree that the service and the achievement of our veterans, their fallen comrades, and those who currently serve within the Canadian Armed Forces have been the foundation of our country. Those achievements, that service, and the sacrifices made have made Canada the land of peace, freedom, and equality that is today. All of us owe a tremendous debt to those who have served in times of conflict and in peace. It is why we place such an emphasis on remembrance, not only now during Veterans Week and on Remembrance Day, but throughout the year. Our government is committed to commemorating our men and women in uniform, commemorating the service of those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, and honouring those who continue to serve today. That is the core of Veterans Affairs Canada's mandate. Through the Canada Remembers program, we pay tribute to our veterans through memorials and events providing educational resources and public information. My colleague spoke to the many aspects of veterans' well-being and their successful transition. One of those aspects is pride in their legacy. We are committed to ensuring the stories of our veterans and their families live on. This year, 2018, is a special year as we mark many important anniversaries. The 100th anniversary of the signing of the armistice that ended the First World War, the 65th anniversary of the Korean War armistice, the 75th anniversary of the invasion of Sicily and the beginning of the Italian campaign during the Second World War, where my grandfather served, and the 10th anniversary of National Peacekeepers Day. The First World War was a defining moment in our country's history as a nation. We came together for a common cause and stood up to defend freedom. But it was at a great cost. Over 650,000 of our men and women served in uniform, with more than 66,000 giving their lives and another 172,000 being wounded. This year, Veterans Affairs Canada will help Canadians honor this very important anniversary, both here and abroad. Canadians and Newfoundlanders played a critical role during that time, so much so that the time between the Battle of Amiens in August 1918 and the end of the war became known as Canada's 100 Days. Veterans Affairs works hard to encourage public recognition and awareness of the service and sacrifices of Canadian veterans and the fallen. Remembering all that they have done during war, military conflict, and peace helps us to better understand our nation's history and, in fact, its future. Fortunately, most of our youth have not known war or had to experience it firsthand. Our younger generations are able to grow up in peace and security thanks to the contributions and sacrifices of our veterans and their fallen comrades. I think it is why that it is so moving to see our youth taking an active role in remembrance and doing their part to ensure that the legacy lives on. Throughout the year, organizations and people across Canada and abroad honor veterans and current members of the Canadian Armed Forces. They do this through ceremonies, assemblies, plaque unveilings, vigils, and many other tributes and commemorative activities. In my hometown of Sussex in New Brunswick, a small committee makes sure that banners honoring local veterans span from one end of Main Street to the other throughout the month of November. It is through those actions that we as Canadians say to our current and former members of the Armed Forces, thank you for your service, thank you for your dedication, and thank you for your sacrifice. But we need to say more than thank you. When the men and women who defend our country transition into life after service, they value a continued link to their comrades and to the veterans community. Those are just two of the reasons behind the decision to restore a card recognizing veteran services. However, the main reason is that CAF members and veterans have been asking for it. I heard directly from many veterans while serving on committee. Veterans were not happy that those cards were discontinued. Our government responded. Veterans Affairs and the Department of National Defence recently announced their joint initiative to reintroduce a Veteran Service Card. The card will be available to any former member of the Canadian Armed Forces who completed basic training and has been honorably released. The Veteran Service Card is more than just a piece of plastic in a veteran's wallet. It's a tangible symbol of service to this country. And because it doesn't expire, the card encourages lasting affiliation with the armed forces. As the Minister of National Defence noted at the launch, current CAF members can feel confident knowing that although their military service might come to an end, their identity as a member will always endure, and Canadians will always remember their service. Madam Speaker, this government has made a commitment to improve the lives of members and veterans of the Canadian Armed Forces, not just after release, but throughout their entire military career, from recruitment to retirement and beyond. Over the past 3 years, we have taken a number of measures to do that. We've invested nearly $10 billion since 2016 in increased benefits and enhanced services for veterans and their families. And yes, partway through each year, the department goes back to the Treasury Board to request supplementary funds to ensure that no veteran goes without any of the critical programs they rely on. Because these are generous forecasts, they often result in funds returning to the consolidated fund at the end of the fiscal year. The very fund that will ensure that no matter how many veterans and family members apply for benefits and services, those eligible will receive them. Let's not get caught up in the technicalities of accounting, Madam Speaker. Let us continue to honor and commemorate our veterans' achievements, courage, and sacrifice. And let us remain focused and committed to the well-being of veterans and their families. Thank you.